everybody? Welcome back to a brand new episode of The Lead. Your host, as always, Harley Dugan. I'm here with a very special guest. If you don't know him, his name is Jordan Reid. He's going to tell us about himself right now.
Yeah, it's a pleasure being here, Harley. I'm a big Houston fan. I'm a big
Mm.
Rockets fan. I
Woo.
like watching the Rockets. I like watching the Texans. They had a really good year last year, exceeded expectations. So I'm excited to talk about some Houston guys.
Yeah, this is great, man. I didn't know you were a little Houston bias here. There's no problem with some Houston bias on this YouTube channel. We like to keep it chill. I'm a very laid back guy, hence the Hawaiian shirt. No, I'm not Hawaiian, and no, I'm not Asian. I get that a lot as well too. So without further ado, let's get into this, man. Nick Caserio made a trade just a few days ago with the Minnesota Vikings. What were your immediate thoughts on the Texans now moving down basically 20 spots in the draft to 42?
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting and something that nobody seen coming. Um, just talking to people at the combine, nobody expected Houston to trade back.
Mm.
If anything, people thought Houston was going to be aggressive and try to trade up, especially now trying to take advantage of the rookie contract that CJ Stroud is on. But the more and more that I looked at it, the more and more it made sense. And I think from Nick Caserio's standpoint, he felt as if the same player that he got at 23 he could get at 42. So he feels like the strength of this draft class is really the late first to early second round. He felt as if the same players that he could get in that position, especially at the Texans' needs, as far as their position of need right now, he felt as if those players were pretty much identical.
Yeah, and my immediate thought when trading down to 42 was, well, I was at 59 initially. I was pretty hesitant on this guy being there at 59. Now I feel like this is the pick. Is it Edgerrin Cooper, Texas A&M's linebacker? What do you think about Edgerrin Cooper and his fit with DeMeco Ryans being a former linebackers coach with the Niners? And how would he work next to the newest Houston Texan, Azeez Al-Shaair, and up-and-comer Christian Harris?
It would be a really good fit. And he's actually my top ranked linebacker in the
Mm,
draft right now. So it would be a little bit surprising if he made it that far. But
mm.
with the lack of strength in this linebacker class, I could see some teams waiting until day two, especially early to mid second round, to where we see the run on these linebackers. But if he was able to add Edgerrin Cooper into that defense, I think it would be a very, very good fit for them. Just because when I look at Cooper, he's very explosive. You can play him inside. You can play him outside, but the thing that makes him so great is just his athleticism. Just imagine that athleticism and that explosiveness in DeMeco Ryan's defense. I think it would be a great fit.
Yeah, that gets the city of Houston buzzing. I'll say that they're already buzzing with the awesome regular season, and what happened this year was amazing. That extended honeymoon phase is still now pouring into this offseason. What are your thoughts on the free agent moves that the Houston Texans have made so far? And are they now in what some want to say the trendy Super Bowl pick? Are they in that contention for an AFC title?
Yeah, I think they are. And whenever you have the hardest position on the field checked off already with CJ Stroud, I think that already makes everybody's lives coming into the building so much easier. And that was the big worry with Houston coming into the year. And I remember this strictly the interception that CJ Stroud threw in the preseason against the Patriots. It had everybody stressed out. And I was just like, just be patient. It's a learning experience for him. But ever since that moment, it just seems like he's been a completely different quarterback and he learned from it. So with CJ Stroud, you have that box already checked off. Nico Collins turned into an absolute star for them last year. Tank Dell, the early returns on him look really good. Now, the offensive line does have some questions. They do need some depth there, in my opinion. But if they could just stay healthy, I think they'll be much better next year. So offensively, there's a lot of excitement about this group. But defensively, they do have some areas where they do need to address. Cornerback is one area I would like to see them continue to address. And we already talked about linebacker too. But the free agency moves, it hasn't been super flashy, but it's been very calculated, in my opinion. I love some of the additions that they have been able to make on both sides of the ball.
Awesome. It is great to see. It's like a revelation to see national media talk any sort of positive news for my Houston Texans, especially what we've gone through the last few years. It's just been a complete 180, 360 for this organization in the face of it. Some are in the same belief that because of the deep talent at wide receiver and offensive tackle, that maybe some of the other prospects do get tended to push down potentially. Do you see maybe any prospect that could probably fall into the Texans' laps at 42?
Yeah, one guy I think Texas fans should be crossing their fingers to fall to 42. Not saying he's going to fall, but one I think they should be crossing their fingers if he does is Jerzon Newton of Illinois. If he's able to fall to 42, I think it would be one of the biggest steals of this draft class. And I think outside of Byron Murphy, he's easily the best interior defender of this entire draft class. But he has battled a Jones fracture. He got surgery for that in January. So he's going to go a little bit later than what some people were expecting. I mean, I've had him in the top 15 of all of my mock drafts up until we found about that injury news that kept him out of the combine. So if we're talking just strictly off of talent, he's a top 20 player in this draft class without question. But there's still some question marks about how healthy he is. So whenever you take somebody in the first round, you don't want those type of question marks walking through the door. So that could keep him out of the first round. But if I was Nick Caserio, if he's sitting there, 33, 34, 35, I would get a little bit antsy to trade up for him. I think he's that special of a player.
It's fantastic that you bring that up. Nick Caserio was on local sports radio today here in Houston on 610, the flagship station of the Houston Texans. Did mention that just because they traded down does not mean that they won't go back into the first round. So I am glad that you bring that up. What's up with the certain flip-flop it feels like between Byron Murphy and Jerzon or Johnny Newton? I'm confused on the name still with them. But what's up with the flip-flop? I've seen Johnny Newton being basically the guy. Now it does seem like on some other draft boards, Byron Murphy's starting to be the DT1. What do you think is for the cause of that?
It's just he's been healthy, and then he flashed a lot last year. Now, I think the tape, if we're just strictly talking about the tape, I think Johnny Newton has better tape than Byron Murphy. But if you think about the pre-draft process, Murphy has been able to build up momentum all the way until this point. He had a terrific combine. He stood out in plenty of other facets as well. He's done really good in team interviews from what I've heard. But we haven't seen Johnny Newton since his final game at Illinois. He didn't play in the bowl game. At the end of the season. So the last time we have seen him has been the season finale for them. So he hasn't been able to build up that type of momentum throughout the pre-draft process. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why we've seen the flip-flop between Murphy and Newton.
We got 5 minutes left before I got to let you go. We're going to give you some quick little rapid fire questions right off the bat. You mentioned you're a Rockets fan. What's your favorite Rocket?
So I should have said I'm a Rockets fan. I'm an NBA fan, but I like the young core that the Rockets have built over the past few years. Cam Whitmore, I was shocked that he fell as far as he did in the draft. Jalen Green has shown some promise. Still needs to be a little bit more consistent, but I like the promise that he has shown so far this season. But my favorite Rocket, you have to say Hakeem Olajuwon, right? That may be before your time, but I was a big the Dream fan. He was awesome. Clyde Drexler was really good too. Charles Barkley was awesome. There's so many other guys that you can go on and on about these Houston Rockets.
Fun. Next one, underrated prospect of yours.
Ooh, pick a position. I'll let you pick a position.
Let's go team of need. Texans got wide receiver.
Jalen Polk of Washington is one that I like quite a bit. So he's probably going to go somewhere in the third round if I had to guess right now. And everybody's talking about Rome Odunze and Jalen McMillan, who were two very good players for Washington. But one player that just continued to stand out as I was studying both of those guys was Jalen Polk.
Let's go another position. Same question. Cornerback.
That's a good one. Cam Hart of Notre Dame is one that I like quite a bit, and he definitely fits what the Texans have looked for in seasons past with DeMeco Ryans, as far as if we're just talking about the scheme. 6'2", over 200 pounds, very physical as a tackler, really good in coverage, moves really well for a bigger corner. I just think he's going to be a second-round pick if I had to guess right now, but he's going to be a starter very, very quickly into his career.
So same question, defensive tackle.
Ooh, one I would say is Mason Smith of LSU.
Yeah.
He didn't quite live up to the hype at LSU, but former five-star recruit, had a lot of hype coming in. But I was really impressed with how he moved at the combine. And even though he didn't put up those gaudy numbers that was expected of him, you saw a lot of those flashes. And what a lot of people forgot about him is that he tore his ACL back during the 2022 season, the very first game of the year. I believe it was against Florida State, if I'm not mistaken, celebrating a sack that he had He ended up tearing his ACL. So you could tell that he still was trying to overcome a lot of that early on into the season. But during the back half of the year, you started to see some of those flash plays that he was making early on into his career. So I think as long as or as quickly as he furthers his or he distances himself from that ACL tear, I think he's only going to get better.
You're at 42, Jordan. The Houston Texans are on the clock. They're telling you pick somebody. Who do you got?
I can pick anybody,
Anybody
realistically,
you want.
anybody.
Anybody that you think is relatively at the 42 range. It's not to get
Yeah.
too crazy.
I'm gonna go with Edgerrin Cooper. I just think in this defense, D'Amico needs his Fred Warner, and that's not to say that Edgerrin is going to be the Fred Warner type of player that he has turned into. But if you're just strictly looking at the traits, the explosiveness, the ability to read key, diagnose, step downhill, and be a sledgehammer in the run game, how he can consistently create a TFLs behind the line of scrimmage as a blitzer or even an edge rusher. And then also in pass coverage, I think he's really good in pass coverage. I think if you make him the centerpiece of D'Amico's defense, I think he's going to be an absolute star.
Awesome. This was great. We got to let you go, Jordan. I do appreciate you coming on. If you got anything you want to say to the people, how to find you, where to get to know you, let them know right now.
So you can find me on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, whatever you all call it nowadays, at Jordan_Reid. That's JORDAN_REID. And you can find all of my work on ESPN Plus. Make sure you subscribe to that. We have mock drafts, positional rankings. We have buzz files that come out that share rumors about all 32 teams and the stuff that we're hearing. We're making our rounds at pro days. We're talking to scouts. We're talking to executives and people that actually work in the league too, and sharing everything that we hear.
Awesome. I thank you so much, Jordan, for coming on the channel. As always, guys, go Astros, go Rockets, go Texans. Y'all have a blessed day.